Welcome to the Emerald Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Doyle, and on this podcast I speak to different Irish athletes about their highs, their lows, biggest battles, biggest successes, and why they fell in love with their sport. In this episode, I chat to High Rocks athletes Tom and Dena Hogan. We talk all things High Rocks, other endurance events they've done, and the good and bad sides of sharing exercises on social media, and so much more. Without further ado, Tom and Dena Hogan. I was just thinking about it there before you were coming on, and I was looking at different things that you've done and everything, and I was thinking to myself, I don't know how you both keep going, because I'm 32 now, and the amount of aches and pains and groaning that I'm doing is just unbelievable. I don't know how you're doing it. It's just amazing. And just sorry?
More ignorance, that's all it is.
More ignorance, yeah. I'd say there's plenty of that involved, all right. I'd say you'd have to have it, no matter what skills or whatever you'd have. And tell me, just in general, how did you get into, I suppose, fitness, or where did it start off, or the love of it, even growing up?
Yeah, well, I suppose typical of every kid growing up in I won't say Wexford, but in Ireland, I suppose, just played everything. GAA, soccer, bit of rugby, athletics. Did everything up till probably around 21, 22. No, probably even later, 23 or 24. And then kind of got a bit disillusioned with team sports, because I probably would have felt at the time that I put a lot more effort in than probably 99% of the people that I was playing with or training with. And that always kind of pissed me off a little bit. So then I started for a bet, actually. Someone bet me that I couldn't beat him in a 5K race, someone who was doing a bit of running at the time. And I took him up on it, bet him, took his money, and kind of thought, enjoyed that. It was basically, I figured out pretty quickly that I got rewarded for the effort I put in. Other people wouldn't be rewarded for my effort. I'd be rewarded for my effort. And something with that kind of clicked with me, and actually thought, well, why have I been wasting my time doing things for other people? Like, I should be a bit more selfish here and go to sport where I get rewarded for my effort. And kind of from then on, it's always been individual sports. So it was a decade or more running, got to high level with that, running for Ireland and stuff like that. And then in 2019, we retired from competitive sport. Seemingly found this thing online called High Rocks, and this was going to be fun for retirement years, and then instantly got hooked into that. And basically with the High Rocks thing, what happened was we figured out very quickly that we had actually been training for this thing unbeknownst to us. We had been training for 2 or 3 years for an event that didn't actually exist. We were already combining running with a bit of weightlifting and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So when this thing came around, we were already kind of prepared for it. We had been training for a sport that didn't exist. So we very quickly became quite good at it and got to the elite level of it. So that kind of fueled the thing then. Like, you're not really going to give up when you're at the top end of something. So then we said, right, let's give it another couple of years of and to be fair, with something like High Rocks, like you said kind of there to us about, like, at our age, and I get that. And longevity in sport is different for every sport. Like, if you're doing something like hurling or football, where every time you're running for a ball, someone is trying to hit you, it's very hard to do that into your late 30s or early 40s. Even if you go running and you're just pounding the ground day in, day out, like, that starts telling on your body massively when you hit your 40s. But if you do something hybrid like High Rocks or a DECA or some adventure race type of thing, and you're mixing all these things up every day. One day you're lifting weights, the next day you're running, the next day you're doing ski, or you're doing a row, or you're sitting on a bike. The longevity in the sport goes out massively then. You can do this into your late 40s, early 50s, because all of a sudden it isn't a one repetitive motion over and over and over and over again. You're all of a sudden doing different things. You're making your body stronger in different situations. And we've kind of come to realize in the last 3 or 4 years, just about anybody can have a bit of longevity in sport if they changed over to this type of training. And even if you wanted to stay doing your soccer or your football or your hurling, if you trained or changed your training style, you could probably keep doing that for a few extra years. Like if we got GAA lads in their late 30s to stop going up to the field and getting hit every night, but change the way they're actually training, they could probably keep going for an extra couple of years. But it's getting that across to people that this is achievable if you change. It's hard. Nobody likes change. It's hard to get people to change things.
Yeah, no, you love routine, and I'm very routine orientated myself, so I could definitely empathize with that. Like it just, you're used to what you're used to, and it's very hard to, I suppose, adapt to it. But it's funny you say that. You'd never think that your muscles might grow if you're using the same thing or doing the same thing. But as you say, it has to give in, at some stage as well. It has to kind of give in. I'd say you were both pinching yourselves really when you were training towards something, and then you realize there's a sport actually made for you. What are the chances of that happening? You know what I mean? Most of the time, if you're doing something, there's nothing to go with it. I'd say you were just like saying, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually here for us to go and do, almost.
Yeah, look at, and everybody if you kind of look at High Rocks in the last, everyone thinks it's a new thing that exploded in the last 12 months because of social media, but it's been around since 2017. So we're on year like 7 or 8 now. But if you look at the last 4 or 5 years of the elite side of things, it's all guys who had a decade of endurance kind of sport behind them. Like we had the ultra marathons, we had Ironmans, we had marathons, and they have other guys who came in from elite level mountain biking or all that sort of, but it was all endurance athletes who were all doing what we were doing. They were all mixing up a bit of running, a bit of weights. Like I suppose Hunter was probably still the big name in High Rocks. Like that's the way he was training. He was always doing this different mix of things. So the sport just suited all of us. And it's people think because the sport started and these people got to the elite very quickly that they can get there very quickly. But they don't see the decade or 15 years of work that went in before the sport came along. Yes, we were new to this sport, but we weren't new to this style of training. And that's what kind of sets the top 15 or 20 lads apart right now.
Yeah, I've done some of the trainings, and I'd say if you pick a really quick time and you start and go and do it, you find out fairly quickly that it's not that easy just to put your feet into it and just do it. I'd say you find out very quick. And what would your schedule, I suppose, look like for a week? Because I don't know, there's so much information regards, doing simulations and doing all these things. What would your, I suppose, weekly schedule look like, and even recovery and maybe little things like that? Because it's, everything you see maybe online is very intense nearly all the time,
The boring stuff doesn't make good social media and put up the usual stuff. For us, I suppose, if we're honest, our training has changed dramatically. Probably at most the last 6 to 12 months, if not even a year and a half. What we're doing now is very, very different to what we had been doing the previous 3-4 years and backwards, and even backwards again. I mean, in 2018 springs to mind. Both Tom and I did an Ironman 1 week apart. We had 4 children. The youngest was 2, and then they ranged right up. And we were doing 22 hours a week training. We were doing 400 kilometers on a turbo trainer from 4 a.m. so that, so things, it is all in comparison to your time stage in your life, what you're training for, also what your goals. And so typically now we had made the decision that we needed to make some changes because we were breaking down really, and then you were going so long without training certain things, whereas we found now if we're doing a little bit less, we can do it much more consistently, and that's the key. We're not huge people on big volume for High Rocks anyway. Even with our clients that are in their prime, they don't do this massive big volume. We're much more down the road of quality over quantity. I think we still roughly do about 10 sessions a week.
Yeah, still 10 to 11 sessions a week.
Probably 10 or 11 sessions a week. in a mixture of standalone weight sessions, standalone runs, and then a mixture of like the hybrid. We've got smarter. So, 6 or 7 years ago, a Tuesday would have looked like a double track session. It probably would have looked like something like a 10 by 1K in the morning, followed by like an 18K run with some 2Ks in the afternoon. There's no way on earth we can do that type of training now. And to be perfectly honest, you wouldn't need to for high rocks. Is the other end. You've got to remember that. But now we do things like we have double thresholds, but we have them one in the pool. We'll do intervals, and then the other one might be on the ergs, or one might be a run and one might be the ergs. So we're still getting in some pretty tough sessions, but just in a much smarter format.
Yeah, and we put in a lot of ergs now. Like we would come from a background of doing 80-mile weeks, 120, 130 kilometer weeks, but we only run probably 40 to 50 kilometers now, but we'd also have 20 to 30 kilometers of erg work in the week. And that's the unsexy stuff that you don't see a whole lot on Instagram.
Yeah.
People like putting up I did this crazy workout and they don't like putting up the. I actually just went down, toddled along on an erg for an hour. I was boring as fuck. But that's the reality. That's what really the people at the top of the sport are doing. They're not doing all these sexy workouts. And like Instagram is brilliant, and it's also terrible at the same time, because the sport of high rocks has basically been built off the back of Instagram. Like Instagram made it sexy, made it fun. Everyone had all the topless pictures up when they were finished, and everyone else wanted to do it because of that. And even like I've never seen a sport where like you have the 50-year-olds are mad into it, and also the 16-year-olds are mad into it because they want to put their pictures up on Instagram. But the problem with it then is everything is nearly fake. Like you have to really start sifting through who's the bullshitters and who's the actual genuine people here, because like we see things, we are probably sent between 10 and 20 posts every week by various people saying, hey, what do you think of this? And we usually reply with, it's bullshit. Like it's, some of the stuff is so wild. Like you have these people who are posting that they're doing these runs, they're doing 10 by a kilometer and they're breaking 3 minutes for every one of them. And then you go look at their high rocks result and they're running like 4:30s. And they're like, but how did that happen? How did you all go from you're killing training, but you're running like 106s, 107s in races? Like it doesn't add up. But for some reason, no one really looks into anything anymore. Everything is just kind of believed. If you post it up, people just believe it. And we actually took the piss out of it a little bit in Katowice a few weeks ago, because the same weekend that we did that, there had been all these Vienna was on basically, and I've been talking to a couple more of the old elite 15 athletes like Tiago, Luke, a couple of the 40 plus guys, and we were all kind of taking the piss out of this thing of everyone gets a world record now. I have it's a clone of Enniscorthy record. Me and Dena set an Enniscorthy record for high rocks. Everyone has a British record. Everyone has an age group. Like these are not things. Like these, it's not real. Like this is just bullshit made up for social media. So we posted up that we had the fastest double time ever by a couple named Tom and Dena. Like, which is, but.
Just true.
Which is probably is true, but we actually had a lot of people reply to that post, genuinely congratulating us on this record. Like,
they may have missed the Irish sarcasm,
and it just made me think like people don't read the posts at all. They basically quickly glanced over it, seen the word record, and congratulate you. Like they didn't actually read the post.
Yeah, but it's Tom and I kind of have a heated debate about this, quite a lot actually, because Tom gets super frustrated by things, especially things that he absolutely knows. Not a chance did this person do this workout. Not a chance did this person. Yes, you've got this PB, but like on this course, come on, like, and etc. etc. And my point of view is a little bit different. It's like, everybody wants a slice of the pie, right? Like everybody wants to jump on the high rocks and everyone's got to eat. So if this is their way of, as a coach, trying to get in some clients or whatever, that's on them, so be it. Like realistically, the thing now is it's of you as an athlete to do your homework. Like, I'm going to look at this post. There was actually a post up the other week from a high rocks coach, funny years. And it didn't matter who you were or what your level, he could train you to break 3-minute kilometers in a high rocks. Right? Now that's a bold statement. Like,
yeah, and this guy himself has like a 110 or a 112 high rocks. So he doesn't break 3 minutes himself.
And he kind of told me, a couple of the lads were like, I don't understand this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but it's on you. Like, you as an athlete, you know you can nowhere near break 3 minutes for a kilometer, like, you know. So if you're going to get a coach, pay, do your research. What has this person done? How is he able to, you know, make these statements? What's his experience? Who was he coached? So unfortunately, that's the world we live in now. I mean, the old saying used to be, paper never refuses ink. It's everything out there. It's on you as a person to really decide what's real and what's not, like, you know.
Yeah, Meg Jacoby had said during the week, actually, she put it well. She said, the coaches who have the snazzy Instagram pages and are posting all the ads and have the best reels are typically the people who don't have a clue, because they're spending all their time on advertising and all their time on producing Instagram posts. All the actual people who are proper coaches are spending their time coaching.
If you see I'm looking for 6 people to break 70 minutes, that's usually your cue to scroll on. Fine, anyway.
You know, who's offering to break to get someone at 3 minutes, like Harry Potter? You know, like that's not just you know what I mean? That's a really hard thing.
To be fair to him, he had in brackets no refunds.
Yeah, he actually did. Yeah, he did that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised with that either, because there'll be a lot of disappointments, I'd say, when it comes to it. Yeah. You know,
we went on a huge tangent there. I think we were asked about training, how many hours a week we train.
Oh yeah, so sorry, I don't know how that happened, but what I was getting at was, we've drastically reduced it, but we're still working very, very hard, and that is another beauty of high rocks. Like, you know, just if you're not in Elite 15, or even if you're not at World Championships or whatever, you can still be very competitive within your own circle, within your own age group. So, for us, it's about just being, you know, the fastest old people right now and doing what we need to do that.
Yeah, I think we would like, from our own perspective in sport or in anything, the way we're coaching now, we're trying to get people kind of away from thinking, like, you have to get faster. Of course, everyone wants to get faster. But when you get older, like, you're not going to get faster. You know, your body is breaking down. For the men, you're going to have a lot less testosterone when you hit your kind of late 30s, early 40s. Everything like that is changing. So, like, we are always kind of saying to people, slowing down is basically the goal here. Like, if you can slow down how fast your body is slowing down, that's as good as a PB. And if we get people, and this goes for, like, because your podcast is all sports, this goes across the board. Like, I hate now to see everyone that I used to play GAA soccer and all with, they all stop in their late 30s, don't they, or mid 30s, and that's it. That's it. The end. Some of them might go back running when they're in their late 40s or early 50s or something like that. But if you could get everyone of the mindset of, like, you shouldn't really stop. Like, we all should be still exercising. We just change our mindsets. You reframe things and you forget this idea of, I have to get bigger, faster, stronger all the time. And you reframe that to, I just want to slow down the aging process, basically, and I want to be fitter and healthier for a longer period of time. If I can be fitter and healthy into my 50s, early 60s, well, that's going to be great for your whole life. Like, for your life, your kids' life, your grandkids' life, everybody's. And it's kind of trying to get people to think like that is hard.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And you know what, as well, I always think to myself, how about instead of going quicker and doing things quicker, how about mastering technique? You know, whatever you're doing, just get into a tempo of doing that really right and mastering that. And then you can nearly, in your own way, you're going at a steady pace for whatever sport you're doing, and you're still accomplishing and doing really well.
Yeah, it's just it's getting this reframing everyone's mind is the thing. Really, it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's very hard. It's like even for us ourselves. Like I found it hard when I was kind of starting running. There was a guy, John Joe Doyle, from Wexford Town. John Joe ran for Ireland in European cross country and world cross country. And when I was kind of coming on the scene, he was just finished. But he was only like in his 30s. And every race we go to, John Joe would be running before the race, he'd be running after the race, but he'd be watching the actual race. And I always used to say to him, like, why would you not run like? And he's like, oh, no, like, I'm not going to run slower than I used to run. And like when I kind of got to mid-30s and I started slowing down, for a while I did have that attitude. It's like, what's the point of me going to a race and going slower than I went a year ago? Like, I don't want to do that. So it did take us time to kind of reframe our own minds into actually it is good to keep going, even if you are going to be going a little bit slower. Like it is better to be going a bit slower than not going at all. It's much better.
It's just if you've been highly competitive your whole life, it's hard to walk away from that a little bit, and that takes adjustment. But yeah, it can be done. But the other end of it as well, you don't have to be doing the same thing. Like we've gone from mountain running to marathons to Ironman to high rocks now, and now we still do things like Strive, a fitness competition in UK. We'll be doing Rise. Like, you know, there's plenty you can be doing across all boards, and that will help keep longevity and everything as well, you know.
Yeah, and just actually, when you mentioned that now, what all of those challenges, let's say, bringing them into one, what's the hardest challenge, or is there anything that you find difficult, or is it just do they all have their different aspects that I suppose that are tough, or is there one that sticks out where you're like, when I was training for that? Yeah, in terms of the events, I suppose,
Putting on socks every morning is usually the hardest.
I can't even do that now.
It takes me 20 minutes to warm up.
I suppose, like anything, everything is different, isn't it? You know, it's like asking a 100-meter sprinter, is his race not as hard as a 10K-er? Because when you're in your max effort, you're in it. The only thing I will say is you can kind of endure anything for a certain length of time. So as painful and as hard as high rocks is, the reality of it is probably only around like 55 minutes or 60, whatever anyone's doing right now. Like an Ironman is, if you're having a bad day on an Ironman, an hour in, you've still got 9 hours to go. Wow. That's hard.
Yeah, I suppose
that's hard.
It really depends on what you're talking. Like, are you talking mentally hard or are you talking physically hard? Because if you're talking an Ironman or a marathon, mentally that can, like, it's so tough to kind of talk yourself around in those things and keep going. But if you're talking physically hard, there's that competition Strive that Dena mentioned. That's in 4 different parts, and the first part is 18 minutes of org work. You're in a team of 6, so you would think 18 minutes, 6 guys, this can't be that bad. It is the most horrendous, painful 18 minutes you will ever endure. And if you see pictures of it, if you went on the Forder's Instagram, you see pictures afterwards, it's just carnage. It's just everybody on the ground, guys puking in the corner. It is absolutely horrendous 18 minutes, because it's basically just eyeballs out from 10 seconds in. You're redlining from the very start until 18 minutes.
It takes us about 2 weeks to recover after Strive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like realistically, like high rocks, 2 days later, we're ready to go again, get back into something. Strive, absolutely not. Like, we are done for about a week. You've
been on an assault bike, so you put in any sort of hard effort on an assault bike like that, it sucks the air out of your lungs.
It's funny though, when you hear 18 minutes shared out, it actually doesn't sound that bad.
No.
Like, I'm definitely going to take your word for it, but you know what I mean? When you hear it, you just don't, you don't think it as hard as anything else.
It's totally horrendous.
Yeah, we have some new people joined this year and they were like, on paper, I don't know what's everyone saying this is going to be. I'm just like, you can't describe it. You may just wait and see.
Yeah, we've been a few years, and there was actually what was done in January this year, and it was 3 degrees. It was absolutely Baltic over in Birmingham. The whole event is outdoors. And we were on the start line of the first event, and there's about probably 10 or 12 of us kind of at the back, and we still had jumpers on and woolly hats. And it's all the old boys who've been to a few of these things. So we're all hanging out the back, like dreading what's about to happen, basically. Like we're all like, oh my God, I can't believe we're here for another year of this. Like, how do we keep getting signed up for it? And all these young boys in their early 20s were like bouncing around on the front of the start line, and like all of us kind of in unison at the same time went, none of these fuckers have been here before. And like 2 or 3 minutes in, you look over to the young lads and they're like absolutely dying on the ground.
The reality check kicks in, basically.
Yeah. It's like the whole thing of like, when you don't know what's coming, you're kind of excited and you're all up for it. If you know what's coming, it's like, nah, it's not going to be fun.
But it's just like anything, isn't it? It's just a max effort, you know. You know, if you're putting everything into it, it's so hard, like, you know. But probably, I suppose the stage in our life of the Ironman probably will always ring out the highest for me anyway, just because of the pure madness that it was. You know, we have a couple of businesses, we were keeping them going with the 4 kids, and we were both training so hard, and then we were heading off in camper vans with bikes and buggies and dogs. You know, we were traveling 1,500 kilometers to get from where Tom's Ironman was to mine. And so looking back now, I just think how. But when we were in like anything, when we were in the thick of it, we just got on with it and did it, and some amazing memories from it, that's for sure.
She's inspirational, really, to do it. I know everybody else would probably say you're crazy, you're mad, but you know, I'd look at it from a different point of view. Like, that's unbelievable to get through. You know what I mean? I'm going to ask you both not to be modest here, but I think it's almost the Irish way. When you look back to what you've done and achieved, you know, and what I suppose the achievements you've got. I don't want to say records broke, but you broke them without, I suppose, shouting it out from the rooftops, which I think is even better. You must feel a great sense of, I suppose, pride or proudness that you did work hard and, you know, you did have these achievements. And when you look back at what you've done, I suppose.
No, Chrissy, we wouldn't be having notions about ourselves now, right? Do you know what? It's like anything. Every now and again, we get, me or sometimes we'll have a conversation and be like, Jesus, you know what? That was good. Like, this, and most recently, I think it was the Elite 15, wasn't it? And
I don't think that will ever be matched. Like,
of all the thousands of people.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to have a husband and wife in the Elite 15 of High Rocks ever again. Like, I think that's
a bold statement.
But I'm making it. I think that's a pretty unique thing. No matter where the sport goes, they have aspirations of it ending up in the Olympics, and like, it's going to get more and more professional. You're already having lads signing 150, 200 grand contracts with brands. Adidas and Nike are coming in. Like, it's going to go to unbelievable places, but I don't think that's ever going to be matched. I don't think you're ever going to have a husband and wife who get to the elite level of it. I think
that's pretty special.
That's something we'll be able to keep. But like, for all of the things, it all comes back to basically what drives you, I guess. And for both of us, it's always been 2 things. Like, we've always been interested in how far could we push ourselves. Like, that was always from day one, from when we started running. It was never about winning. It became about winning when you realise you're actually half decent at this thing. But at the start, it wasn't. It was like, what can I get on myself? How far can my body go? How fast can my body go? So we've always held on to that. And even now, we hold on to that, and we look at other people of similar age. Like, we will look at the High Rocks results, and we still have, I suppose, we're so competitive. We don't know someone in South Africa races in our age group. We're like, we can fuck them up. I can beat them. I can beat them people. I don't care what time they ran. Put us in a head-to-head, we can still beat them. So we still have that. And the second big thing for us has always been, we've always wanted to show the kids that if you put time and effort into something, you'll be rewarded for it. Like, that has always been there. And it's why from the time that Tess was 6 months old, she's been dragged to Ironman races and dragged to marathons, and we always kind of wanted to show that through hard work you can get what you want, basically. And
that, it's not even just about sport. For our family, it is like the whole family, the kids, us. It's everything we all love and do is sport, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a bit about business and living life and everything else as well. And just it comes back to what you put in, you get out. So that is important for us. And see it now with the kids, like they're all in everything.
Yeah.
We've got one on a scholarship for soccer in Arizona, and we've got another lad here taking over one of our companies, and he's still maintaining his sport. We've got a 12-year-old girl that just broke 20 minutes on a 5K. Like, you know, they're hard at it as well. And they're all in peers, multi-master, workforce. So, yeah.
So that's always been the why, basically. And I think the achievements or the medals, no one really, like, everyone in the country has an addict for medals and trophies, and you put them in a box and we all put them away and no one ever looks at them again. But if you actually remember why you got into the thing and your people around you are seeing what you're doing, I think that's more important than the actual achievements. Like, if we were asked to really say what were your big achievements, we'd always say Fittest family, because we did it as a family. We'd always say the elites, because we were there together. I would say I did a relay in Frankfurt this season with the 3 boys. So we had an all-family relay. Like, they're the highlights. Like, winning a marathon or winning this or that or the other, someone would actually have to physically remind me of those things. Like, they don't pop into my head. But the things with the family all pop into your head, or when you see the kids doing something, they're reminders, really.
Yeah, they're the special moments, as well. Yeah, and I get that, because you could get a time and you could do something, and yes, it's great, but it's who you do it sometimes as well. Really makes special, as I said. And I have to ask you this between the two of you, because I know this can go one way or it can go the other. How do you work competitively when you have to work together? I mean, is one getting onto the other more? Do you just come together, or how does that usually work?
It's so funny, because we're asked this all the time, and we're always really amused by it. And we have conversations with other mixed doubles couples as well, and they'd be like, "Oh, you'd be bordering divorce, or you'd be having this." And I can honestly say, I don't know. I don't know if it's because we've been doing it so long together or what. It just runs seamlessly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think we both know what the other one needs as well. Like, if I'm having, like, I actually did have a really bad day in Katowice. Like, I was hurting from run 1 and it was lagging a little bit. Like, Tom knows, like, saying to me, like, come on, we're off pace, or we've got to go faster. Like, that would do nothing for me. In fact, I'd probably shut down more, like, whereas hearing, like, that runs really good and we've nailed the ski and now we're back out and we're where we said we need to be in position. Like, they're all things, okay, yeah, finally. So I think knowing each other inside and out as well, like, I mean.
Yeah, and it's again, this can be related back to team sports. It's, if the goal is about getting for us the fastest time possible, well, then you're going to, who cares who does the majority of the work, or who cares who does what, if that's really the goal. But the problem is that with some of the people who are doing doubles together, or some of the teams in other sports, it's about what people look like. People want to, how did I look in that race? Like, we never go into a race thinking, well, how am I looking here? Am I looking like I'm a superstar? Like, I don't give a shit. Like, and usually when they're giving out medals at the end, they don't care if one of you looked great and the other one didn't. They just care about the times. So that's kind of something that probably sets us apart. We don't care if one looks like shit on the day, or if someone says, oh, Tom didn't do his fair share there. Who cares? Like, we still got a time at the end that we're proud of. And that's basically why we don't have arguments. I think the only time that she gave out to me, we did DECA once. We actually only done one DECA event. And we had a plan. We're usually pretty fluid with our plans, but the plan was Dena was going to do one lap So in Deka, it's always 3 laps to make up the 500 meters. So you have 130 odd meters.
And you don't stay together. So you can split it how you like, you know. It's tactically very different to high rocks.
Yeah. So Dena is vertically challenged. So things like orgs, assault bikes and all, she doesn't like them and they don't like her. So the plan was I was going to do all the assault bike. She would do 1 lap after the assault bike and then I would tag back in for the next one. So I did the assault bike. I got off, blown up my arse.
Sprinted out of my little ass because I'm doing 1 lap.
So Dena goes flying around, and as she's getting to me, I'm like, no fucking way, I definitely can't run yet. So she goes 10 meters, and I'm half dying trying to catch my breath and trying to scream at the same time, going, you may do another lap.
I got ran by like this.
I got to F you as she and she ran past. So that was probably the only case where
yeah, the chemistry and stuff, we've got to work. Like, I mean, bearing in mind, me and Tom, we went to school together since we were 16, you know, we were actually married nearly 20 years. So I suppose for us, race and all is minimal compared to everything else we do together in life. So
and we train a lot together, which probably helps too. Like I know if Dena's suffering just from her mannerisms, she doesn't have to say it. So like in those situations, I'll just start doing more. I won't ask her, does she need me to do more? I'll just do it because I know what's happening. So all that sort of stuff helps. And having each other for training has always been a huge, huge bonus for us, because even though we probably don't always do the same things or we're not the same paces, etc., it's very, very, very rare that the two of us won't be up for training. Like, you always see these things on Instagram about motivation versus discipline. And discipline is what you basically do need. But the days that I feel like, oh my God, I really don't want to train again, like, she's usually up for it. And then it's like, well, no, I have to go down. She's I have to, and vice versa. It is that she's not up for it, I'll be up for it. So that's great to have, because it'd be very rare that the two of us are going, not feeling it today.
And another big thing to remember, and we tell this to clients all the time, it's just a race. Like, it is not life or death. If you go to a race and one's not on it and your time's slightly slower, like, let's keep it in perspective, people. Like, you know, it's just a race. It doesn't define you, doesn't define your relationship, doesn't change how fit you are or how much training and commitment you've put in. It's just an hour out of one moment in time. The next one could be a million times better. And I think that is a big thing with us as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as life or death maybe as some people.
Yeah, because again, come back to the why. It doesn't, our why isn't determined on flags or medals or times.
If we don't win, we get a bit of stick from the kids for a couple of hours. We like to roll it out. Tom, when we were in our ultra marathon stage, Tom DNF'd one race. Now, one race in his whole entire career. And he shouldn't have actually even started. He did that. He wasn't just being a pussy. He did have something wrong with him. Still to this day, and that's probably 15 years ago.
No, easy, yeah.
It's rolled out. So, like, maybe Tess or someone might do something slightly off in soccer, and Tom will say, "Ah, Jesus, now you could have done that, or you could have, yeah, but do you remember that time that you didn't finish that race?" So, like, that's it's a little bit of face in the family as well. Is the big thing.
I can just see the Michael Jordan image there. That's all I needed, you know, as in for your next time I go. That's all I needed to hear, and that was it. But you're lucky that you have, I suppose, that chemistry too to work together, because there's definitely people that listen and envy on that. I'm 100% sure of that. And then you've definitely people that roll over in the morning, don't feel like it today, and the other person says, me neither, and just roll over and go sleep again. You know, it's the easiest thing to do, but there's definitely people, you know, that do it. So you're very lucky in that front. But it's great the both of you can do that and push each other and, you know, help each other out when you need it. I'm also glad that you said you've had races or stations where you have been absolutely gassed out, because that's the way the majority of us, including myself, feel. So I'm absolutely delighted to hear that.
It happens often.
Yeah. I sometimes think people do think like the better you get or the faster you get, the easier it becomes, and it's the total opposite. Like, you know, like you just go harder again, or you're just trying to make a few seconds here or there. If anything, the more you do, you're really at that pointy end, like seconds here and there. It becomes harder, you know. It's definitely never easy, no matter what. You know, I've never come out of a race and gone, Jesus, that was grand. Like, you know, it's always pushing to the max effort on that day.
Yeah. And I just wanted to ask you as well, because I know you've done obviously the racing together and things like that, and now you're going more into the coaching aspect as well. How do you find doing the coaching and working with people, I suppose, trying to create that community? Is that a nice feeling or a nice thing to do just in general?
Yeah, it's like I give Dena probably 99.9% of the credit for she is the backbone of the coaching thing. Basically, I do the coaching, but in terms of actually liaising with all the clients and creating the community, Dena's done all of that end of stuff, and it's actually taken off something beyond what we ever thought it probably would. Like, if you take this week in Glasgow, we have 30 or 40 clients racing. And not only are they going and doing their own races, they will go and support, like, because we set up a WhatsApp group for every race. So they might have never met John from Belfast and Paul is from Manchester. And they never met each other other than talking a little bit online together. Physically never met each other. And they go and support each other races because they see, oh, Paul is racing at this time. I'll go on and cheer him on because he'll be in a Team Hogan vest. And things like that just blow our mind, basically, that complete strangers are meeting and then they're having coffee or pints together after the races. And like, we see now these friendships have formed across.
I'd be getting jealous. There's like, meets going on without me. I'm like,
it's crazy, really. You know, that this has happened like this. And it kind of does, like, you see it, I suppose, in things like Premier League, where players go from being a player to a manager, and it does fill a void almost. If you're ultra competitive and this has been your life for a long, long time, which has been for ours, like, this does fill that up, because now you are kind of living it through them a little bit. Yeah. You know, we're not racing this weekend, but yet we're still constantly on the phone checking this person's result and then this person's, and then, like, you see Ronan Lindsay had a 57 last night in the pro race, and like, that makes you almost as proud as when your kids do something. You know, you're like, yeah, that's amazing that, like, we've kind of helped them to get to that level and get that. Like, he's done all the work. Like, this is something we kind of keep throwing back to the clients too. They say, oh, thanks, you got me here. And we say, we didn't get you anywhere. Like, we just basically put down a foundation for you. You're the one who did everything. You did all the work. You got out of bed at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And that's just something else that's a huge motivator for us. The amount of our clients who are training at 4 a.m. and stuff, because it's the only time in the day they have. And like, it kind of gives you a little kick up the arse and go, well,
I have ladies that are like nurses and stuff doing shift work, or solicitors that are working like 50, 55 hours a week on top of being a mom, and they're still getting training in. And I'm like, bloody hell, like, you know, that is discipline. Like, and so the client, the coaching, and the team Hogan, it's going about 3 years now, is it? It's about 3 years now. And
it's gone from Dena basically being over in London with her son, writing notes on scraps of paper and WhatsApping pictures of it to 2 or 3 women, to having like over 200 clients all around the world. Dubai, Australia, America, Hong Kong,
Spain, Germany,
all over Europe. It's
amazing.
It's pretty crazy. And it's not, like I said about Ronan there, like, that is not what it's all about either. Like, it's great, and they're the people who get the headlines, usually the people who are doing really well. But like, we have people there who are huge inspirations. I see one guy in particular, Khalid, who came from basically never doing any sport in his life. And then when he kind of contacted us, he came to a race we were at and then contacted us afterwards. And his whole reason was he had 2 small kids, 3 and 5, and he never really did sport. He's out of shape in his early 40s, and he wanted to set an example for them. He wanted to show them that this is not how you should be living your life. You should be doing some fitness, some exercise, getting involved in sport. And to see a fella going from zero, like from basically zero to what he's doing now is totally crazy. Like it blows my mind every day. And he's actually in the middle of Ramadan now, and he's still getting up every day, totally fasted and doing the work so his kids can see, like, set a goal and see it through. It's pretty inspiring now to have people like him.
Yeah, there's a lot of clients like that. It makes us very happy.
Yeah. Just means more, doesn't it? Like, just even we mentioned there when you say doing it for his kids, you know, it's not even for himself. Well, obviously it is a bit for himself, but mainly it's for his kids, which is just unbelievable. Like, that throws, as you say, times out the window. You know, it's all about just setting that example, you know, as well, which is unbelievable. And I know you were saying there about, I suppose, bringing clients together and all like that. Just generally, when you go to these events and you're traveling, I always wonder, do you make a holiday out of it, or do you just go, do it, enjoy it, and come straight back? Or would you make a bit of holiday? Because I suppose these events could be on in great places that you mightn't get back to unless...
Yeah, so this was... When we got back competitive in High Rocks, I suppose, when we were in the elite stage of things, no, we didn't see anything. Like, Hong Kong springs to mind for me because I flew to Hong Kong. I stayed in a hotel room for 16 hours. I ate porridge because I was afraid to eat any of the food out there. I did a race. I had 1 pint and I went back to the airport and flew home again. And I came back and everyone was like, what's the Asia like? I was like, I don't know. I was in an airport, a convention center, a hotel, and that was it. I didn't see anything. I didn't do anything. I didn't taste the food, nothing. I was there to win a race, went, did that, and left. So when we finished the elite side of things, a big reason we wanted to kind of step away from being that competitive was that we're going to all these amazing places, all these cities that High Rocks is in. Like, let's actually start seeing some of the cities. So we have been trying to make a bit more of an effort on that lately. But then when we have a lot of clients racing in the same city that we are, well, it gets hard again because you have to kind of go and see all them. Not that you have to, but we want to go see all them. We usually enjoy spending time with them as well. So
we did the dog on it in Vegas there a few weeks ago.
Yeah. We enjoyed it. That was a total holiday.
That was a total holiday. We won't lie about that one.
That was a holiday disguised as High Rocks race.
I'd leave Vegas without doing something, to be fair.
Everything.
But then, for instance, Poland last week was literally, we arrived in at 12 o'clock Friday night and we were home at 11 o'clock Sunday morning, something like that. So obviously we have to balance out. It used to be a lot easier because the kids were at an age where we were the parents that we said, right, we're going here, you come in, you know, like, and they loved it. They loved the races, the events. But people think when they're small, oh, it's so hard. But actually it's when they get older and then they start to have their own lives because they've got their, like, for instance, Tess she's on club soccer, county soccer. She swims 4 or 5 times a week, you know, everything else she's got going on. She doesn't want to miss that stuff, you know, and High Rocks, seen it, like, you know. And so then you kind of you're tied between that parent guilt of going, not that they would even miss you. But you have that to obviously, you know, getting back but seeing places. So it's a little bit hard. For instance, next weekend, Malaga, that's Team Hogan's race weekend away. So I think there's about 70 of us going, and there's about 6 or 7 relay teams. So that is it 10? Sorry, yeah. And so that will all be about mixing, and we'll have some shakeout runs, we'll have some coffee meetups, and of course we will have the après party.
Yeah. But then it's funny because these people become your friends anyway. Like when you're involved in, you know, when you're involved in something like this and you're talking to these people during the week, you only see people who are racing, like, because all your other time is taken up with work, with coaching, with with life. So I see these people more than I see what I would class as my actual friends. So these people start to become your friends then. So they're the ones you want to spend time with when you're away. So.
Yeah, and the fact it's a group, I suppose, and you're all kind of completing it together, there's a sense of achievement afterwards. So I'd say that weekend is going to be great because, you know, you'll be after achieving something, getting through it as a group, and then all coming together afterwards. Like that's, you know, and you get that automatically in team sports, but it's great to see what's almost an individual sport in some sense. I know there's the relays, but bringing a huge group together is fantastic as well, you know.
And some people, like a lot of people actually have told us, like, you know, your program is amazing. I love it. I'm training. But to be honest with you, the community and what I'm part of means more to me than anything, you know. Different circumstances mean some people are, you know, they just can't get to as much training as they usually do. There's stuff going on. And I'll say, you know, do you need a little break? Do you want to rest from your program and get that sorted and come back? And they're like, no, couldn't imagine not being part of Team Hogan. Like, and I mean, imagine hearing that. Like, that's the best.
I'll tell you what's very funny with basically the mix of people we have from all different cultures, countries, walks of life. It's the Irish people, especially coming from like GEA background and stuff, tend to be the hardest people to train. Like,
really? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And like, I think, like, if you talk to anyone in Ireland, have you ever heard in any other sport in the world the term burnout? Like, it only exists. It only exists in the GEA. Like, how people who train for like 4 by 1 hour times a week think they're going to burn out is totally and utterly beyond me. Like, someone really needs to have a look at themselves there if they think that's the case. Wow. And I think it's because it's ingrained in us that we're always here. Oh, you can't train like that. You can't do this. You're going to burn out. And it's just very hard to change those people's mindsets. And for whatever reason as well, the people in Ireland, generalizing people here, but it tends to be Irish people, expect things to happen a lot quicker than from other countries. Like, they expect that in 4 to 6 weeks you can see this great shift in fitness, where in reality that can't happen that quickly. And other people seem to be of the opinion that, oh yeah, like I'm looking 8 months down the line and looking a year down the line. We talk to most Irish people are looking like 4 weeks down the line. You know, and I don't know what it is or why it is, but we need to kind of change that thinking. And maybe that goes back to what we talked about earlier, that everyone finishes sport here when they're in their kind of mid-30s or late 30s, and to see that as they're done, you know. And now I go coach the under 10 team because I can't do that anymore. We need to change all that, really.
They're burnt out, Tom. That's why you have to. They're burnt out. Can't go anymore.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I've had men say to me, if you keep going like that, you'll be burnt out. I've had it so many times. Honest to God, it's unbelievable.
It's crazy. It's because I guess it's because we, like, I'm going to be really controversial here now. We put the GEA up on this pedestal in this country, and they're looked at as the fittest lads and the strongest lads, and they're not. Like, I'm not afraid to say they're not. If you take any county in Ireland, I guarantee there's lads in running clubs, in boxing clubs, in swimming clubs, in cycling, in triathlon, 100 times fitter than them. And we just make them out to be something that they're not really. And I won't go into names or anything like that, but
please don't.
Back to Strive again. And we had a guy who's heavily involved with the inter-county football team come over to that event and say afterwards
to watch it
that his eyes were open at the fitness levels. And he said that he understood that the elite people would be a lot fitter than the inter-county GEA players. But he was a bit shocked that normal lads who had 9-to-5 jobs in building sites and they were doing this and that they were fitter. And he could see it. He talked to a lot of people there that day, and he said, like, the fitness level here are another level compared to inter-county.
Yeah.
Because he's in the bubble here. He's in the bubble of believing that the GEA lads are above people, and the reality is they're not.
Yeah, and I always thought it funny because I'm mainly soccer, hurling. I'd be mainly soccer, hurling, GA rugby. But I always found it amazing when you went to school. If you didn't play any of those sports, look, you're not into sports. And that always baffled me. You don't play those. You mustn't like sports. Even growing up, always remember, and they're my favorite sports. But I just think back and I look back at it now. How stupid a comment or a thought was it to think that with so many around that like there was nothing else.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is what people who say to us family members actually more than anyone. Tess will be burnt out. She's doing this. She's doing that. Like, if anything, you'd have to stop her from doing more. Like because as long as you can listen to your body and listen to how you're feeling and make the calls in the moment. Like, what you can do is endless, really. Like.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about listening to the body. Like we will pull back when we're tired. Yesterday, I was supposed to have a second session yesterday. I did an hour on the bike erg in the morning. I felt like total shit doing it, and that was it. I was done for the day. I actually got in the sauna for 40 minutes instead of doing a second session. Like that was the point.
And would you do, I suppose, when you're feeling like that, let's say, would you do much for recovery? I'll actually tell you a funny story because I had Enda Cloak on last week, and he was telling me how he would stick to the basics, so he might get a bit more carbs during the week, and he'd make sure his sleep is right, and he'd do stretching, and different things like that. But what he kind of said that to me, and then I had just thought back to myself beforehand. I was just in an ice bath, I'd say about 40 minutes before I came to him. And he was just going on about how these modern things are, there's too much focus on them and all like that. And you just need to stretch and get a good sleep. And here I am nodding with him, yes. And I have been in an ice bath 40 minutes before. So I was like, I couldn't even admit it to him at the time. But do you do anything? Do you go mad for recovery, or is it just kind of keep it simple, I suppose, like Enda?
Oh.
There you are, back now.
I was saying there that we're big fans of the infrared sauna. Like in the last 6 months, we've gone big into that, and we spend 30 to 40 minutes every day in it. And we find that when we travel, even the 1 or 2 days we miss, like our bodies feel that. So that's a big thing for us. But I get his talk on the sleep because that's number one. Like, I think the ice bath, the sauna, the hot tub, I think all of them are really beneficial. But if you're not doing the simple things of eating extra carbs, extra protein, doing the sleep, well, they're the first things. But then when you have exhausted those things, well, then go to the infrared, like we're very lucky that we're sponsored by ESN, and we have the best of all recovery products. Like we have a press full of tablets for all sorts of different things. And we've the magnesium,
tablets,
the ashwagandha, the solid joints, everything. But all of that does help, and it helps more the older you get. And like Enda is in his early 30s, I think.
I think he's in early 30s, yeah.
So like it's like kids, like they're made of basically Play-Doh when they're in 10, 12, 13 years old. They just bounce back instantly, and he'll find that as the next decade progresses, that the sleep and the carbs won't cut it anymore, and he'll have to do something a little extra. He'll have to do an ice bath, or he'll have to do infrared sauna, or he'll have to do something. But yeah, all that is very, very necessary, and
I don't understand why people don't do it, really. Like, especially the supplement stuff and all. I'm saying to I think there's 107 Team Hogan girls in a WhatsApp group, and I'm like, you're doing your shift work, or you're going to work, you're doing your kids, you're doing the house, and you're carving out this like hour to go find your training, you're killing yourself in there. The simple thing is to come up and take a scoop of collagen, a scoop of creatine, and gone. Like, to me, it doesn't make sense why people don't do all that extra stuff. Like that's the easy thing. Like, but most people, they'll think that training is the be all and end all. Like, you know, but I mean, we have been guilty of that. We have been guilty of like lacking the recovery, and because it's all fine until it's not.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like, you know, and I do think like maybe if we'd have took it a little bit more seriously a few years ago, would we be finding less little problems now? But sure, if you didn't start yesterday, the best place is to start today, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And do you know what? It's too easy, as you say, it's too easy of a thing just to let go until, you know, you feel a bit tighter or something's not right. Then you go searching for it, you know. Yeah. And it's always the Band-Aid fix instead of, you know, making sure it doesn't happen in the beginning of it.
You do something great, and then the second it starts to work, you stop it because you're fixed again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't need that anymore. You know,
like creatine and all is always. We do a lot of workshops where we go to gyms now, and especially a year ago when everyone was jumping on the High Rocks thing and they wanted us to come and do a talk in gyms and stuff like that. And they ask around like what supplements you take, and they're all like, "Nah, I don't take anything, but I have a good diet." And you say, well, like you give them the stats on creatine and stuff, and they say, well, like you want to be eating this much lean mince every week, are you eating that much? And they're like, I wouldn't eat a tenth of that. And like, what are you talking about then? Like, you're not eating what you think you're eating. Like creatine and stuff is such an easy thing, like Dena said. Like, it's dirt cheap. Everyone should take it from 12 years old to 90 years old. They should be supplementing with that. And yes, no one is doing it. And this again, we go back to the GEA and being a little bit backwards. Like, I was never involved in the GEA team where we talked about beta-alanine or creatine or anything like that was actually going to help us. Like, it's not really looked at, is it?
No, it's kind of left to the side. And as you say, you'd want to have a really, really good diet to have yourself covered. Because, you know, you're always someone's missing fish. They're missing something, you know, in their diet that should be lacking. You know, I don't believe these people that maximize their diet all of the time. You know, it'd be very few now, in fairness. You know, it'd be very hard to do that.
Nobody.
But yeah, and then the creatine, so you can just put it in your oats. You can drink it, and it's not a big thing. You can throw it in with anything you want, really. And there's no taste, you know, as you say.
Cognitive health for older people and like it fights off the effects of Alzheimer's. It's just crazy the amount of benefits it has, and yet you'll never hear about it in the school. The government will never tell us how good it is. It's like not many sports people are taking it. They're all just leaving things on the floor. Really, it should really be all taken.
Talk about the wrong things more than likely, but you know the wrong things, of course, for sure. I don't want to skip over it because I know it was probably a special moment because you got to do it as a group. Talk to me about the experience of the Fittest family. Must have been a really nice.
Dena will talk about it all except the final.
I get some emotional PTSD from Fittest family. Actually, it's funny because we haven't really thought about it in a while, and we had some friends staying from the UK with us last week. And we have them all on a memory stick, and we put on a couple. It came up about Jay actually, because a big moment of it was when Jay got up a ramp and he was on the national papers and he was this and that. So we showed them. But it's a very special moment, and probably one of the best, you know. And yeah, it's hard to take. We kind of lost out in the final by a second, I think, whatever it was, but. And I joke that it's hard, but I would never change the experience for anything.
No, it's a great summer. Like basically the way it's all done is if you keep winning, so if you win this week, well, next week you do some filming maybe at our house, or we went to Davies, or we film somewhere basically. And then the following week you're back competing again. If you get through, you're back filming again, then you're back competing again. So we had a whole summer of traveling around the country. Like, and because of the age the kids were at, like Josh was turning 18, he didn't want to spend 1 second of the day with us, and now he's forced to spend the summer with us, you know, and on someone else is paying for us to go around the country and stay in nice hotels and do all these nice things. And it was just like, for us, that was the highlight, and the people. Like, we got so close to the other families because we would film for 10 to 12 hours to get 20 minutes of content. So you basically spend 10 hours sitting around chatting to people, drinking tea all day long, and you get quite close to people when you spend that much time with people. So, like, we, even in the months or a year after, we were meeting up with people. The Brogans happened to be down in Curracloe one summer on holiday, so they called into us, and we still kind of keep bonds with people, which is really good. So we loved it, and it probably won't be the last. We get contacted every year by them because they know we have 2 other kids. And last year they were back onto us again, but it didn't work. To be fair, we don't want to go back with the 2 boys anyway. Like, I wouldn't see a point in going back with Josh and Jay. I'd see it better going back with Tess and Piers. And Tess is only 12, so she'd have to wait 2 more years. But they keep contacting us to come back with. They don't care who we come back with. Basically, just come back with somebody. Yeah. But for us, we want to change it up and give the other 2 that. The problem there is we'll be 45 and Tess is 14 and things. Yeah. But saying that, like, I think we'd be a lot better suited to the show now than we were back in 2019.
Yeah,
because
we're at the kind of peak at, like, running, and
we were skinny triathletes, and now we have a bit more bulk on us, and I think it's a bit more suited to what the show actually is.
I didn't get any taller though, so in fact, I think I'm shrunk.
Yeah, that'll always be a highlight for us. There's certain things in the show, like the fact that the hang tough always kind of. It's the only thing, I've said this in multiple podcasts, the only thing I ever trained for, and I got worse the more I did it. I think the very first time I did it, that was the longest I ever lasted. We couldn't get Josh to do it. Like, we just couldn't get him to do it.
Tom threw an out bar up on a wall, and literally every time one of us passed it, we'd, hop up and see how long you could hang. I kept nagging Josh.
He wouldn't come down.
Go on down and try that. Go on.
He just wouldn't.
It was the only thing we knew that would more than likely be a
because it's in it every year. It's the only thing that's in it every year.
But can you chalk up for it?
Pardon?
Can you actually chalk? Can you chalk up for it, or is it just?
No,
you weren't allowed anything.
No, you weren't.
So he wouldn't train, and then on the day we were getting up on the bar, and Davey says to him, "I'll give you €20 if you last longer than the rest." And if you we kind of look back on the videos, and when the 3 of us were down, you start seeing Josh smiling, and it's because he won €20. And he actually looks over to Davey when the third person falls. He looks over to Davey and starts smiling because he knew he won €20 off him.
It's amazing what money can do when it's thrown in the mix.
You don't need to train, you just need
incentive.
The incentive of money, and that's it. You can outperform everybody else.
Geez. Yeah, that's one for you now to remember when you really want something done, whether it's sports or not. Throw money in the mix, and it's all good. Yeah. But I enjoyed looking at it. It's a great watch, the Fittest family in general. It's a great show, and I didn't know that it really brought families together. So that's actually great the way you got to mix, really with the other families. Now, 10 hours of filming, I think my social battery would be probably out of control, I would say, at that stage. But for 20 minutes.
We learned quite quickly, I suppose, because let's say day one, they would ask you a question. You would answer the question, and they would say, "Oh, maybe you can rephrase this or you can rephrase that," and then you have to shoot the whole thing again. And this happened on day one 5, 6, 7 times. But by day 2, we cottoned onto it. So the minute we went in and they said, "What do you think of this?" we would say to them, "What do you want me to think of it?" You tell me what to say. I'd say it.
Basically,
we can shorten this whole process.
You'd be trying not to sound like a dick. Like, they'd be saying, "Who's gonna win?" And we'd be like, well, there's a couple of families. No. The Hogans are gonna win. The Hogans are gonna smash it. And you're just like, do you know what? I may just be that person.
And you know what? It's yourself. Like, it's the last thing you want to say, even if you think it. You don't just want to be like, we'll win.
You don't.
You just have to start remembering that they want a TV show. It's not a fitness event. And when we realized that, we kind of just got on board with what they wanted us to say. And half of the stuff now we look back and we go, we didn't even say that in that context. Like we said that a different day. And that would happen a lot actually. We would talk about something and it would be used like 3 weeks later in a totally different context than what we were talking about. But then that's what they're doing. They're trying to make a show that engages people. So can't really
entertainment value first. Yeah. No, it's great to hear as well. Now I'll keep an eye out now when I'm looking. I'll have it in my mind, all those TV shows. Now I wonder where they coaxed into saying that, or is that how they really feel? You know, to see. I just want to ask you as well, because I know there's going to be some High Rocks listeners, and I know we spoke a lot about High Rocks already, but I know a lot of things you're saying are not sexy, let's say, that are on Instagram and all, as you've said. But if you had to give short advice or something to say about how to, I suppose, do your best, or you had to give a short piece of advice for it, what would you say?
For training, racing?
For either, really, training or racing, just in general.
Well, if it's the first one, the advice we always give is to enjoy it, because by your very nature, all of us, the minute we have a time, we want to beat the time. So you're never going to enjoy anyone after the first one. First one is the only one you enjoy. After that, it's just miserable existence. But the second big thing is it's a running race. People are starting to believe that more and more now, but that's what it is. So if you're not, like, again, go back to when we used to go to gyms and we'd ask around how many kilometers you do in a week, and people are like, I did 4 this week. We say, well, the race itself is just under 9. It's 8.7 kilometers. It's not even 8, because you have the rock zone is 0.7. So if you're not running 20, 30 kilometers minimum a week, like, you really don't have any business going there, and you're going to suffer terribly. So that's the very first thing. If you're signed up for one, get your kilometers up to 20 or 30 minimum every week, and then start adding in stuff after that. But that has to be that's the baseline right there, that you have to do that. And then look at where you're, like, the big thing, and I think when people sign up with these coaches online, especially for generic programs, with something like High Rocks, like if we take running, we're all doing the exact same thing. With High Rocks, yes, we're doing the same thing, but we're coming from very different backgrounds. So if you were a 95 kg man, 6'3", like, I'm going to say to you, like, you don't need to do probably feck all strength work. Like, you should really put all your time into running. Whereas if you're 65 kilos and 5 foot, like, you really need to get into the gym, because it's the stations that are going to eat that person up. So you have to look at where you come from. Like, what's your background, and basically reverse the training. So if you're coming in as a runner and you're already doing 60, 70 kilometers a week, you could bring that right back down to 20 or 30 and spend 3 days in the gym. If you're coming in as a bodybuilder or a CrossFit athlete, bring the gym work back down to 1 or 2 days and start running, or get on the ergs 4 or 5 of the other days of the week. So be honest with yourself, basically. See where you come from, what's your background, and what do I actually need to do. Don't follow Instagram and that these lads, like, we give you a story on the Instagram. We're friends with just about every one of the elites. And we know people go to Malaga, Mallorca, wherever, for 2 weeks, film shitloads of content, and roll that out for the next 4, 5, 6 months. So when you're seeing things and you think, oh, this is happening in real time, it's not. Like, it's not happening in real time. This is not what they're doing this week. This was filmed weeks and weeks ago.
I was there.
It's not happening right now. But don't start looking at someone on Instagram and following their routine, because the likelihood is that isn't their routine at all.
Yeah. If there's one, I suppose if I was to give a guideline of one thing for me, I would say to always make sure your training has purpose. So, you know, if you're following a plan and it says run 30 minutes or run a 10K, like, for what? You know, like, if you're going to sacrifice family time, work time, if you're going to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, if you're going to go down to the gym at 10 o'clock, make the most out of it. What can I get the most bang for my buck? So, you know, if you're going to stroll down the road for 8K, like, what's the point? Okay, I've got an hour. I can fit 3x2K here at 30 seconds off my race pace, and that's going to give me same time frame, but it's purposeful. It's for a reason. It's going to give me some really good back, like, you know. So try not to just aimlessly go. Obviously, there is, if different markers for this. If you're brand new to sport and you're coming in, any kind of run or form will help. I'm talking about maybe if you're a little bit more advanced, if you're looking more for times and stuff, be purposeful. Work out your paces. You know, my kilometer repeat pace is this. My threshold is this. My interval pace is this. Work them out and stick to them, and that will give you a better progression than just willy-nilly running.
Perfect. Yeah. No, it seems I love the advice of even, you know, having the purpose, building on your strengths, but obviously securing up your weaknesses as well based on your background. It seems like, you know, very solid advice, you know, a lot of common sense, I suppose, orientated as well, if you get me, you know.
Not that common is usually people's biggest downfall.
And guys, the last question I really wanted to ask you, because it's one that you probably won't know, but I'm just intrigued. We had CrossFit, and like that hit this certain height. We've High Rocks now. What's next? What's it going to be next?
I think High Rocks will be around longer than people think it's going to be around, because we know what they're doing in the background, and they don't see it as a competition as such. They do really view it as a lifestyle and as a way to live your life. And I think if they can really get that across to people, well then yes, they're way more longevity than an event, because an event like is going to be a decade or 15 years. Like I remember back in the 80s, my mother used to be an instructor for step aerobics, and that was all the rage. You know, all of these things get like a shelf life. CrossFit is probably not as dead as people think. It's just the High Rocks is getting so big. But if you look at some of the online stuff, the CrossFit people are still as crazy as they ever were into CrossFit.
Still as culty. High Rocks. I was actually reading out some posts, wasn't I, from someone had something up about High Rocks, and there was obviously these CrossFitters, and they were like, oh yeah, it's like CrossFit but for unfit people. It's like CrossFit but for people. And I'm like, damn, these people are
they're
insane.
Still there. But like one of my trips to Dubai was we were working with the government out there. We're bringing schools into High Rocks, and they do have a plan to kind of try get into schools and into PE and stuff like that. So if you can do that, well then, like you're going to last a hell of a lot longer. Then they're trying to create a proper sport.
I mean, there's no shelf life to soccer.
No.
There's no shelf life to hurling. Like, you know, so I suppose that's the angle.
But in terms of the next events, there's already loads. Like every weekend, if you look in the UK, there's a different event based around orgs or we actually launched one in Ireland last year. So this time, March, basically this week last year, we had a race called Bua. We did it in Bunclody in the indoor soccer pitch. We did it
with a gym in Donegal.
We had a partner up there.
Yes.
And went brilliantly, but just the explosion of our coaching, Seamus in Donegal was opening a second gym. We just couldn't get around to having a second event, but we're asked all the time, when are we doing it? So there's loads of these events. I don't think you're going to see anything on the scale of High Rocks, because even if you take Dena, who will be quite a big company with Spartan and stuff behind them, they don't have the money to put on and the production value that High Rocks are putting on. They're spending millions on every event. So you're not going to get someone coming along and throwing that sort of money into something. So I think you're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years the sprinkling of little events everywhere all the time, but nothing on the scale that High Rocks is.
And Tom, was yours just a combination of, I suppose, exercise as well, the one that you did, the first event that you did in Bunclody, or what was in it?
Yeah, so I guess you're kind of, if you look at Dena, High Rocks, Strive, Atex, all these things, you're stuck to certain things because you're trying to put an event together and you're always conscious that people have to be able to train for it. So people have to have access to the equipment you're going to use. So you're always going to be stuck to a rower, to a ski, or to an assault bike, because these are in all the gyms. So when you're putting an event together, you have to put these things into it because it's what people have.
The time frame.
So
ability.
our one was we were working with RAM. I don't know if you know RAM.
Not heard of it now myself, no.
RAM is a piece of fitness equipment it's in Dena. But there are two boys up in Monaghan who invented it. It's a cylinder, a weighted cylinder, essentially, like a foam roller, except with weights. And it goes from 11 pounds. They were initially selling them all in the US. So they're 11 pounds up to 66 pounds. So 5 kilos up to 30 kilos. So we had those in our event as well. And there was 50 reverse RAM lunges. Then it was a 1K ski erg. Then it was 30 RAM burpees. So that's essentially a devil's press because you're using the RAM over your head after you burpee. 1K row. Then into 50 calorie assault bike. And then we had a heavy bag in it. So we had a 50 kg bag where you had to put it over your shoulder 6 times, walk 12 meters with it. And you had to repeat that 4 times. That really destroyed people. And then we brought that
myself, to be honest.
Yeah, and we brought that straight into 100 wall balls. But after the 100 wall balls, you ran 3K.
Oh, that's cruel.
But it went out well. The format was great, and like I say, we use the rams all the time. We use them as sandbags for lunging. We use them for burpees overhead and stuff. So, it was a really good event. People loved it, and hopefully one day we can do another one again. But
see, we were able to set it all up in one lane basically. So everyone had their own lane. You started down the bottom with your rams, and you just moved up in sections, and then the treadmills were at the very, very end to do your 3K run on. And we actually, it was a bit cruel, but we faced them out into the crowd. So you had to face the crowd doing your 3K run. So everyone got to see exactly how much you were dying. So yeah, as a concept, it worked really well, and it flowed nice throughout it. It's just getting the time and getting another space to do it, and is the issue.
Yeah. It'd be nice. It'd be lovely if you could, because it sounds like it's good, and it's definitely challenging. I know that by the way you're talking about the exercises, but it'd be great. But I know time and getting spaces and all that it takes. The organisation, I'd say, to do it alone, I'd say is just unreal.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like we set it up, basically blacked the place out and had strobe lights and it was like a nightclub.
Party.
But to set that up. But we started, or the lads who were actually doing the light and sound started at 4 a.m. And then the event started at like 9:30, I think. And it was all cleared up and stuff by 3 a.m. the next night. So you're talking 24 hours to put on a 4 or 5 hour event.
Volunteers to get them, judges, and
like we're breaking down treadmills at 12 o'clock at night and loading them back into trucks and even the next day we were still like moving ski ergs back to where they needed to be and stuff. So logistically it's a big thing. You're talking a couple of days work to put on a 5 or 6 hour event. And
unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. People don't just that, and like
just show up is easy,
Yeah, and you see a lot of things now. Oh, why does this cost this much? And it's because of all this that's going on like people are moaning that the price of high rocks is going up, but look what you're getting for like the production value that they're putting on is so far above anything else that's out there. Like you can't put on that scale of an event for cheap. Like so.
God.
What you either want a £50 ticket and a shitty event, or you want a £120 ticket and an unbelievable event. Like that's where it's at basically.
Yeah, and if they put on the cheaper ticket, Tom, you'd find, and the event wasn't as good, everyone would still buy the quality one anyway. Yeah. If you gave them a less price, but it wasn't as good, they'd all pick the good one anyway. You know what I mean?
That's what Dena is. Dena is basically that price point, and it's half a high rocks more or less, and just a DJ in the corner. It's nothing like the production levels that high rocks is, and that's the comments that are always there. Oh, but it's not like high rocks. That's what everyone says. It's not like a high rocks.
No matter what you do, people are going to complain anyway. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you try and do, you'll never win. Tom, Dena, thanks very much for coming on. I know you'll be too modest to say it, but you're definitely an inspiration to couples, as parents, and from an active point of view, you're definitely inspirational too. And I know you say some stuff does be put out there that's not the best. Please, both of you put out stuff there, even if it's boring. That's true and right as well. And keep going, because I've definitely learned a lot from chatting to you. And as I said, you're definitely an inspiration. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to the Emerald Athlete podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave a review. And don't forget to check out our Instagram page, the Emerald Athlete Podcast.